when it comes to managing our stress, or when it comes to having that mental and emotional stability, many a times we look at many high-end things, many costly things rather. But there is one very simple technique which we all can use, and I have been using it for many years. I'm sure Shantesh, you too, is to use something like this, kind of a notebook, which can be very cost effective, and a pen like this, a 10 rupees pen also can work if you want to start with, and start writing your thoughts, what we call as thought journaling. And it's a very powerful and effective process in multiple ways. We will go into the different benefits of that, but just to open up the topic, the starting point for thought journaling is as simple as doing your morning pages. So early morning, when you wake up, whatever is there on top of your mind, before you start your day, you just start writing down. So that's what the thought journaling as a topic is about, and we will see into more details. So Shantesh, maybe just to set the context, if you want to add a few lines, we can do that.
Yeah, I think when it comes to journaling, always it is about contemplating on the day that has elapsed, and you kind of do it in the evening. But something happened, and to our audience, just to tell this story, I met Prasanna after a long gap, maybe 7 or 8 years, and we were sitting by the lake, very close to his farmhouse, and it was quiet, and we were just catching up. There was a sound of some breaking of stone at a distance. I still remember that. And we were talking about various aspects about what we are dealing with in life. And we opened up in that conversation, and I told Prasanna that I'm dealing with stress and anxiety. And that point in time, I was dealing with it pretty bad. I was meditating for that. He asked me, what are you doing for that? And I said, I'm meditating towards that, and I'm also journaling in the morning. And Prasanna immediately opened up about how he was dealing with his issues, and alcoholism as an escape almost he had taken up, which then he kind of realized and stepped out of. And journaling is something, and as well as meditating, and that became like a common ground, and the discussion carried on. Fast forward about 4 days, I'm back in Bangalore, and I'm reading this article where in Times of India's survey in 2015-16, I don't remember exactly. If I find the link, I'll put that in the description. If somebody else knows about this link, please share with us. Where the statistics says that between the age 18 and 35, 7 out of 10 Indians deal with some sort of mental distress. It could be anxiety, emotional upheaval, or sort of turmoil within, depression, sort of any sort of mental issues that they are probably dealing with. And that's a mind-boggling statistics. And 7 out of 10, they further said that is a number which is that they have identified that people are able to acknowledge that they are dealing with something. In the other 3 who are not dealing, they are not sure whether they are dealing or not dealing, actually. So that is quite a alarming statistic. And something which had been working for me was morning journaling as a routine. So when I used to wake up, I would be always overwhelmed with thoughts about what is up for the day, what all things I have to do, how much of work is there, and it all used to bother. But the moment I journal that, if I go back and read those pages a few days back I was reading, it's nothing exciting. It's not like a novel that, or a story that's going to excite you, but it's high and dry. And you have to just write down the thoughts that are processing. And the way you take a dump every morning, you take a dump of thoughts. And when you do that, your mind becomes empty, at least for a few minutes thereafter. You are able to stay in that state. And in that state, the decisions that we make, the decisions that I take or plan my day or create my day, rather, is completely from a different mindset. And in that space of emptiness, there is a sort of new creation that happens. When you are completely sort of keeping aside what your thoughts are, that I think allows you to be with the present moment. And at least for a few moments thereafter, journaling really kind of helps in that sense to anchor ourselves to that. So that's my take, Prasanna. And you can share your experience perhaps, and then maybe we'll see.
Yeah. So I think it can be done in multiple ways. One is to do the cathartic process of writing down whatever is there on top of your mind so that you are disconnecting yourself from that. Or maybe you are able to see that those are your just thoughts. That's not who you are. Those are the things which are coming to your mind. And the other thing is because these thoughts come to our mind, there is also a possibility of we reacting based on those thoughts. Many times in our working environment, in our day-to-day life, we may react from coming from those thoughts, those emotions. Now, this writing journaling or thought journaling becomes a very powerful filter in between your reaction or other response and the stimulus which you get. So there is a situation, you receive an email and you want to respond to that email. Of course, you are angry. If you are not a spiritual guru or something who can not get angry at all, that's a different scenario. But normal human beings get angry and they want to respond, react in their own way. But instead of directly jumping on responding that email or responding to a call or a message, if we write down, and it is okay to write down whatever comes to your mind. As if you want to respond, you can write down that way also. Then you are left with the choice whether you want to respond it in the same way. Sometimes it might be appropriate. I'm not saying that you should always hide the emotion or run away from your anger or don't use your anger. You can use your anger. But the thing is, the way to use your anger can be decided by you. So once you have written that stuff on a piece of paper or a page, then you can either choose the whole thing, or you can choose by eliminating some parts of it and use it, or you can completely skip it. I have done all three things. I have done when something has been written, and on the next day also I feel that yes, I don't see any harm in that. If I don't communicate this, then I'm not expressing myself. Then I'm hiding the real stuff, and which is not good for the situation. It may look good for the person right now, or it may look for the other parties involved right now, but it is not good. It has to be put in an assertive way. So I have done that. There are times when I have removed a few words, filtered a little bit, made it more appropriate, and then responded. And 100% times there are multiple times when I have absolutely 100% removed the whole thing, which means I have skipped that page at all and I have written something else. And all three of that is the way you can use journaling, and in a very practical way, I'm saying, other than the cathartic part which Shantesh you mentioned, and you also mentioned about how we can use it as a daily process of putting our thoughts down. But other than that, also in a very practical way to avoid conflict or to manage your day-to-day work in a more professional way, you can use it as well.
Yeah, and I think that becomes very much important. Just in all the three formats that you kind of took us through, what is very common is the writing part. And by writing part, I don't mean, the activity of writing, but what writing does is when I'm writing, if I'm not writing, if I'm just sitting and thinking about those thoughts, can I be cathartic by thinking? Yes and no. And yes, because in theory, you can think about that thought and keep slicing that thought, going deeper and deeper into that thought to realize that that thought has actually no significance. And you can therefore empty yourself of that. But in reality, in practice, for most of us, when we are thinking of this thought, the mind jumps onto something else. When then we start thinking of that, then something else, then something else, then something else. And suddenly you are on the other side of the planet. You don't even realize how you have reached there. And that's how the nature of mind is. But when you are writing, what really happens is that it allows you to anchor yourself to this moment. Even if your mind is jumping, your hand is writing something, and your hand therefore brings back the mind to this thought that you are jotting down. It jumps again, you again bring it back. It jumps again. You cannot escape from this thought. You cannot escape from the discomfort that you are dealing with. Because now you've started writing about this thought, you did not realize perhaps that it's discomforting. Just like today, I was writing about a dream that I had probably in the morning, which was disturbing, and it's quite normal. but that's still lingering on your mind because you've just kind of got up and you're sitting at your desk and thinking, why is it bothering? So I started writing. And as I started writing, it was uncomfortable. So I wanted to pick up another book and read a page from that. Then what I had read previously in that book came to my mind. So I wanted to read that or recollect that. But I cannot escape because now I have started writing. And however uncomfortable it was, the moment I kept writing and writing and writing, maybe I wrote today a little longer, about 7 or 8 minutes. And just that much is enough because then that thought is kind of watered down and you realize that it has no significance. And then it was a good start for me for the day. Then you go prepare your tea and you're fully with that, and you're having tea and enjoying the Sunday morning. It just changes the mindset. Imagine if I was to have tea in a habituated manner as opposed to after catharsis of my thought.
Yeah. So I completely get that. And that's exactly the reason why, even if you see, the writing also shifts or changes as time passes throughout the day. In the morning, when we write with a very kind of blank slate or early morning thoughts, whatever is there on top of our mind, we are more objective in our writing. Whereas as the day passes on, we become more and more subjective, and our identity, our ego starts coming into picture. And that's why I said, even when we are using it for our work related responses, many a times it is the ego which is speaking there, ego which is writing there, that how this person can write to me, how this person can tell these things to me, or whatever it is. So that me is coming there. And if you are able to catch that me by writing it on a first filter like journally, then you can be objective about the whole process.
Yeah. And coming to writing that thought, for me, particularly as a process, it's very simple. I started with pen and paper. I have a bunch of books. I have to really find them and pick it out the shelf. So I'm not bringing it in the video. I would have loved to, just show the collection that has happened over the last now 3+ years. But essentially, I found out that instead of a roller pen or a felt tip pen, which I'm good at for sketching, I try and use a fountain pen, and I have a very specific fountain pen. This is a shae that which I use, and it has a medium point nib, so it makes you write a little bold, thick. So my font size also has to naturally increase. If it was a fine tip, then my handwriting font size becomes small. And then we have made these journals which are for 13. And essentially there's a elastic band, and what happens is that these are sort of the pages that start coming into it. It's specifically it's designed as a dot grid. You can fold it in use. You can doodle on it. There are no ruled lines, and it allows you to sometimes doodle, sometimes write, sometimes write verses or whatever you want to do. You can deal with that. The page itself is versatile. Sometimes I tear it off, fold, make origami of something that I've written on. But essentially, it allows you to be playful with it. Why 13? Because it has 13 into 7, which the book lasts for 13 weeks, which essentially is 1/4 of a year. And essentially, 4 such books will comprise of the entire year. And so it makes sense to or rather it made sense to us to come up with this format. But essentially, the idea behind this format is to just encourage writing.
Yeah. No, I absolutely get that. And the other thing which happens with writing, which I'm realizing recently, is that when it comes to other forms of content, whether it is videos or whether it is tweets or whether it is newsletter, you have your base thought journaling done. And once that thought journaling is there, you can pick up some of the threads, some of the links, and then further build more content. So what we can do is, as you rightly mentioned, Shantesh, the content which you have can be further used by yourself for other forms of content. Maybe tomorrow, if you want to write a book, you already have the raw material. It will be more about organizing it, eliminating the unwanted thing, and polishing it to a certain extent. So that record keeping, written form of record about oneself and our own life, also gets done in the process of catharsis, which is
One
kind
thing
of a
which,
benefit or side effect, you can say.
one thing which a lot of people have asked me when I'm talking about or sharing my experience about journaling is, are you concerned? Basically, they have not asked it like this. They have asked it, are you comfortable writing down all your thoughts? But essentially what they are asking, or they have asked it in various formats, but hiding the real question that, are you concerned that somebody else will read your journal? And we think that we lead a extremely private life, but most of our personal moments are up on social media. So what are all thoughts that are there, what we are so much concerned of, will open up, will expose our vulnerable side, are not real. Or perhaps we are already exchanging more than that and sharing more than that. So if somebody reads, actually there is nothing that is not out there. Maybe in an unfiltered manner, in a crudish manner, you would have put something, but other than that, there is nothing to be hidden about. And most of the time, the concern which comes is an imagined threat, that what if my secrets get revealed? But it never really is a matter of fact. I mean, that you're not going to write down your passwords of bank accounts or something in your journal because that thought came to my mind. You're writing about thoughts that are lingering in your head. And most of the time, those which are lingering in our head are already seen by the other person without we saying it. If they are close enough to you, if they're sensitive enough, they've already seen it. And a lot of times that concern is actually imagined. Do you think it's true, Prasanna, what I'm saying, or do you think something else?
I would still like to give the benefit to someone who is not okay with expressing themselves, which is also fine, maybe for whatever reason. In that case, there can be a way of expressing it through stories. And those stories, you will have characters, and maybe 3-4 characters can carry some of your thoughts. So the angry part of you can be carried by the angry character in the story. The kind of a wicked thoughts which you are getting, maybe cruel thoughts which you are getting, those can be part of another character. So my point is, those things which you are not comfortable putting on yourself or expressing yourself with the fear, as you rightly mentioned, Shantesh, that someone will read, I don't want to expose this side of mine or whatever it is, which is fair, which is okay. Then in that case, you can use storytelling as a format, and then it is like a fictional thing, and nobody can say that what part is true. So people will know that certain part of this is true. So when Salim Javed writes about a Gabbar Singh of Sholay, there are certain thoughts of Salim or maybe Javed who are thoughts of Gabbar Singh, but then which is fiction, which is fact, there is no access to know that. So it doesn't worry them, but they themselves know that they have written their negative side out. So Valmiki also, when writes about Ravana, there is a Ravan within the Valmiki.
So there you go. I think there are various ways in which we can deal with journaling, and it's about a matter of practice. That the act of journaling, while may seem so fancy and exciting, it really is a banal activity about just jotting things down. And how you jot things down can make the story or break the story, but that's not the point. The point is about pouring down that story. And when you pour down that story, you are not clinging onto it. So the idea here is to not share that story, but actually drain it away. And that becomes an integral part. Any final thoughts, Prasanna, before kind of we complete today's conversation?
No, I think I want to give a few practical views. So first thing is to acknowledge that it is not as easy as it sounds. That writing every day, maybe for a few minutes or maybe a few words, like say 200 words
Even
a
for
day.
5 minutes.
Even for 5 minutes, it is not as easy as it seems. So there is some effort, there is some work to be done there that has to be acknowledged. And then I think slowly, once people start enjoying the process, once you learn how to do it, how to express yourself, then it becomes a habit. But then it's something which is applicable for all habit, that applies here as well. So you have to find a place, you have to make sure that you make your mind and you have all the equipment handy so that those things doesn't become obstruction. So remove the friction as much as you can and start it wherever you want. Some people like longhand writing, which is absolutely fantastic. If you can't do that, you can use digital form also, which is okay. But the more important part is to get started.
Absolutely. And I think one thing which you mentioned is setting your time and space. Whatever time you decide, roughly around the same time, and in that same space, unless you are in another city or another location itself, trying to sit in that same posture, same space, creates a sort of a pattern, which then is something which one gets in a way habituated to, which allows you to therefore anchor yourself a little more seamlessly, a little more easily. Having said that, like you mentioned, Prasanna, journaling every day is not as easy as it sounds, and all the excuses will start showing up. When you want to sit, I'll do it after my cup of tea, or I'll do it later in the day, or I have to rush, there is an important meeting, so first I'll go finish that meeting, go to the office, then I will do it. All these excuses will come, but no matter what, with discipline, we will have to really, at least for the initial couple of months until we get used to them, we will really have to push ourselves. And to see the benefits of journaling, one other thing is that you cannot be journaling for a week and then start seeing the benefits of it. Perhaps you'll have to do that at least for like 3 to 4 months to then start seeing slowly it is affecting you. It's that which is what actually, you try to do it for maybe 10 days, 15 days, a month, and then because you don't see a direct impact of that, you're not gratified, and therefore you then start stepping back from it, or acknowledging the discomfort, but allowing that discomfort to take over also, and that becomes a stopping point. So beware of that part. If you're really serious about taking up journaling, then consider doing it straight for 90 days or whatever, 13 weeks, which is 1/4 of a year at least, and then see if some benefits you are able to see, you get habituated to it, and then you are with a choice whether to continue or to not continue. I think at that note, we can complete our today's conversation. So thank you so much for listening.